Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut, and today I want to talk to you about some drama that is unfortunately happening in relation to, or in regards to, Paradox and the community contributor. What do we call them? Community contributors? I know World of Tanks calls them community contributors. Basically, influencer, YouTuber, name it whatever you want. Arumba. Now, namely, for those of you that don't know, Arumba has been Arumba has been blacklisted by Paradox Interactive, and in a tweet yesterday, he said that it's because he criticized the design decision. Not using those words directly, but he linked one of his videos where he does just that. He made a spreadsheet. I'll talk a little bit about the video and stuff related to, but basically he made a spreadsheet and he said, right, I don't like this. You said you weren't doing this and you're doing this, and that's basically it. However, that's not necessarily the whole story, and from what I can tell, no, he hasn't been banned because he criticized the design decision, but rather there's something else. And to be honest with you, I don't like getting into drama, I don't like talking about stuff like this. But I've been playing Paradox games for the channel and privately since EU3, and it's a topic that strikes near and dear to my heart, and when there's drama like this, I feel the need to not necessarily just chip in for the sake of it, but I feel the need to respond to it and to give the people, I say the people, I just realize how narcissistic that sounds, but basically to give those that stumble across the video and those follow my channel some information about it and some reaction regarding it, right? I just feel, is there an objective need for me to chip in stuff like this? It feels kind of wrong to be like, oh, I personally perceive myself as relevant and thus I'm going to talk about it. No, it's not like that. It's just that I feel like I'm in a position where I have somewhat of a responsibility to react to stuff like this, in the sense that I've been involved with Paradox games for such a long time that it feels like the right thing to do to try and provide a somewhat objective look on the situation for the sake of both parties, more or less. So, with that said, I did contact, and this is like second reason why I really want to do this, I did contact a couple, literally two, of people that I know that are like friends or acquaintances of mine that work for Paradox, and I did ask them privately for a comment or could you tell me more about this? And I did get a response, so I basically want to share a little bit more in-depth of information about this in-depth, which is, really, they weren't allowed to comment much on it, but what little they did allow me to share, I will share with you, basically. So, with that said, let's get into the video, and I'm gonna, by the way, the game in the background is Stellaris, the Star Trek New Horizons overhaul mod, playing as the Dominion. It's a great mod, you really should try it out, but not the topic of the video. So, let's, for a quick second here, I'm going to Alt-Tab really quickly. So, I'm going to talk about the video really quickly now. Essentially, it's a video where Arumba made a spreadsheet in EU4 about how colony and vassal income works, specifically about how colony income works. And essentially, he argues that it's been nerfed way too much, and that the players aren't properly informed about just how it's calculated and how it's nerfed and so on and so forth. And he also points out that Paradox have claimed that magic money, money appearing or disappearing out of thin air for no reasons, will go away, somewhat ironically, from the game gradually, and that they want to move away from this design decision, but instead what's happening is that there is more magic money with the 1.7 patch rather than the 1.6 patch. So here's the thing, I don't really play EU4 anymore. I used to play it a lot, and I partially just got burned out, and partially just other games took my interest. So with the coming of the latest patch, I was kind of thinking about getting back into it, but, you know, what with the exams and with all the other stuff going on, I didn't really have much time. Point being, though, I'm a bit out of the loop when it comes to EU4. That said, though, I do know a decent bit about the game from patches prior, and this doesn't seem like a big deal. Both from an in-game perspective, I mean, sure, colony income's been reduced. Okay. Sucks. Moving on, right? It's not a capital issue. It's not like, I don't know, warfare has been removed from the game and all of a sudden everyone's up in arms about it. Again, the irony and the appropriateness of that statement is kind of amusing to me. Anyways, point being, like, it's kind of a non-issue. It's a minor thing, and yet we've had, you know, quite a bit of drama surrounding this. So both this and a bug report video have been submitted according to Arumba as, you know, problematic, and it's because he criticized, you know, implicitly saying it's because he criticized Paradox that he's getting blacklisted. Now, that's not the whole story. I've seen the video, and whilst in certain times he does get a little bit harsh, let's say, it is by no means anything that's abusive, insulting, or anything along those lines, right? So let's get, excuse me for a second. Okay, like I said, it's by no means anything that you should blacklist anyone for, or it's nothing that should ever really be a problem in terms of criticism, in terms of what a community contributor or an influencer, or however you want to call them, is allowed to say or do. It's really just a non-issue, at least in my modest opinion. However, it appears that that's not the whole story. Now, you'd be forgiven where if you were a little bit, let's say, partial in this problematic situation that has arisen. Don't get me wrong, Arumba is one of the people that has taught me everything I know about the game, and he's much beloved by the community. That said, there are limits. There are limits to what you can and can't say, there are limits to what you can and cannot do. To that end, I'm going to read a statement by Paradox on Reddit. So, this is from a influencer manager for Paradox Interactive, and he says, "Hey all, I'm the influencer sorry about that. Hey all, I'm the influencer manager for Paradox Interactive. There's a new position we've made to work more with creators and have better communication." Yeah, how's that working out in this particular case? Anyways, they've been, to be fair, like I want to say, Paradox has been nothing but great to me. So, I've been in this role for a few months now. Before this, was a community developer for Cities and Surviving Mars. I want to make it clear that we never have and never will block anyone because of game critiques. Heaven knows I've critiqued it and have worked with Paradox. They've given me keys for their DLCs. As a insignificant and small YouTuber as I am, I've been very harsh on Paradox. I've especially about EU4 of all things. I haven't really chipped in about CK3 other than to say I'm pessimistic about the game, but realistically, what else can I say? I haven't touched the bloody thing. You know, it's not out yet. I'll reserve judgment for after. And like the thing is, I've been very harsh about EU4 myself, and they know about this, and I've never had problems. So, moving on. It's just that simple. We do draw the line when individuals, whether our employees or guests or other creators, are attacked or harassed. Now, why this statement is kind of, you know, it implies certain things, right? I'll get to that in a second. And it's for the same reason that we often don't publicly denounce or mention these issues, as we want to preserve the privacy of those who don't want a flock of angry replies swarming them. Hope that's understandable. Feel free to talk to other creators we work with that critique our games all the time. I think you'll find us pretty open to the practice. Which is kind of why, you know, feel free to talk to other creators. I'm being dragged in very indirectly. Not by Paradox. They said, like, feel free to contact them and, you know, see what they'll tell you. It's not like, you know, other creators come defend us. There's a huge difference between the two. But it's kind of like the reason why I want to get in on this. Partially because, you know, I feel like I'm in a position where I should say something. If for no other reason than for the fact that I've worked with Paradox in the past, and they've been very open to criticism. Now, the flip side of this coin is, and I've talked to a couple of people that are, like I said, a couple of people that work with Paradox and that I know personally. So the official statement that I'm allowed to, you know, forward is essentially they've made the statement on Reddit. They don't want to talk about the drama anymore. No community contributor, no content creator has ever been banned because of the fact that they've criticized anything, and this letter is essentially all that they're willing to comment on regarding the issue. However, here's one more from Jordan Millward on Twitter. I'd just like a second. So here we go. Arumba shared the email he gotten from Paradox highlighting concerns about his behavior, including towards Sir Vogelis, on his streams about 2 months ago. A screenshot following the email is provided along with the video on demand link. Now, I'm going to provide as much of these links as I can and am allowed to in the description down below. This I am allowed to share, and basically, I'm going to read the tweet out for you. Unfortunately, you know, I can't play the game and read the tweet at the same time, but Game in the Background isn't really that important anyway. So, here goes. This is from 2 months ago, and it ties into something I kind of want to talk about. Hi Arumba, it's been quite some time since we've reached out to you, and I'd like to discuss why. In case there's a question of who is reaching out now, my name is Jesse, and I'm the PR manager at Paradox. All PR decisions and influence relationships are my responsibility. So, pretty much like from the top, an email from more or less the top when it comes to situations like these. We've spoken via email before, but I wanted to emphasize where this message comes from so it's clear how serious we're taking this matter. Oh god. This email is, to put it lightly, well overdue. With regards to how long it took me to contact you, I want to apologize immediately for that. I could offer a dozen of excuses about how busy we've been, Sorry, it's blurred out, I'm waiting for it to load in. Restricting and shifting responsibilities, it says restricting, never mind, which you suggested yourself might have been the reason. None of that changes the fact that you were left hanging with no response, which is not fair or reasonable. You contacted Troy in July, and he followed up with me immediately. So I want to make it clear that he did not ignore you or disregard your email. This has nothing to do with him. It's my fault alone for waiting to respond, and it should have happened sooner than this, etc., etc. I'm sorry that I let this go as ghosting, and it's not how I want to operate, and it won't be how we operate going forward. So this is in response to Arumba claiming that he is kind of being ghosted by Paradox. They've just been busy, and look, with the entire situation outside the way as it is, I'm not allowed to talk about it. I've mentioned this previously. YouTube's rather finicky about this. But with the, you know, we all know what I'm talking about. With the things that are happening in the world right now, it's very reasonable that you know, there is a delay. I mean, for crying out loud, there's like a 20 to 30 delay on shipping in my country, and we don't have it nearly as bad as some other places do. So, you know, waiting a little bit, or well, okay, this is more than a little bit, but like waiting for a reply from Paradox is, you know, kind of understandable. Unfortunate, overdue, but at the same time, I wouldn't be too harsh on them. Unfortunately, this brings us to the question of why Paradox has pulled away from working with you. Our experiences with you at our events and within our community have, over the past few years, not been positive. And this is what I wanted to highlight. This is not a yesterday question. This is not a 2 days ago issue. This has been happening for some time, and whereas I'm not allowed to, and I'm not going to share the details, this has a lot to do with Arumba's previous conduct and previous problems and problematic relationship with Paradox on both events and on streams. What I am allowed to talk about, as this is unofficial and does not come from the mouths of a official Paradox employee, is that this is because of some of his drunk streams and because he feels sometimes, well, I want to be as fair to him as possible. Like I said, I really respect the guy, I really respect the work he does. I think he's contributed a lot to the popularity of Paradox games in general. That said, as I suppose is in human nature, he often does come off as entitled, and he feels like all of his ideas should be implemented where some of them are just not universally viewed as good. He may see them as universally good ideas. This is not the case with everyone, though, and I want to point out that this is not a unique issue to Arumba. This isn't, you know, everyone's guilty of this to some extent. Not just influencers, but like fans of any video game. Oftentimes you will, even to yourself, maybe recommend changes to the game and go, oh, I wish, you know, this would change, like, you know, this would change to that, or this mechanic was implemented. In reality, until you test out the mechanic thoroughly, you don't really know if it's a good feature or not. And oftentimes, suggestions that you've made were tried before, but don't really work. Like, for example, I want to bring out, like, because this is closer to me than EU4 is at this given stage, I know about World of Tanks. People have been asking, you know, ban premium ammunition for some time. This is not a good idea. It's viewed as a pay-to-win mechanic by some, but outright removing it is not the solution because it's been tried. And yet people continue to believe that this is the correct thing to do. It is not, and until you try out the game mechanic for yourself, it doesn't work. It doesn't make a lot of sense to vehemently claim that it is an objectively right decision. You could say, oh, this is what I would like, fair enough, nobody can deny you that, but to claim objectively that it is the right thing to do is kind of, I don't want to say ignorant, but it's kind of short-sighted, okay? So, with all of that being said, I'm not specifically aiming this at Arumba or at anyone. People tend to do that when they're passionate about a game. It's understandable. People with a large following tend to get a little bit, how should we put it, more verbal and more persistent about these changes. Now, Arumba has been doing this community contribution, if you will, for EU4 and for other games as well for quite a while, and again, whilst much respected and whilst very much helpful to the game, and at most times his overall conduct, especially on his drunk streams, has been somewhat iffy, right? And it is understandable why Paradox wants to not work with him anymore. That said, I want to continue the email. So, also, I do want to make it clear that this is not entirely in the spirit of things. Ideally speaking, this email would never have been shared, and companies in general want to keep stuff like this private, right? People feel insulted or attacked, and that's when they make stuff like this public, or it damages their bottom line, and they try and squeeze more money out of drama like this. This is why, in general, in global, stuff like this happens. I'm not accusing anyone of doing it specifically. I'm not accusing Arumba of doing this for those reasons. That said, he is trying to push the narrative that the video about tariffs and the video about colony income is the reason he's been dropped. That's really misinforming, and it's pushing a wrong and incomplete narrative on purpose. With that said, let's continue. We've seen incidents and received reports about your conduct that are very troubling, including the Groggy incident. Sorry, I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I've seen it in text form a couple of times, never seen it actually pronounced. As well as reports from our community team at the EU4 LAN, which, for those of you who don't know, is a real-life event where EU4 community contributors, I keep calling them community contributors because kind of it's a accurate term, I think, more so than influencer or whatever, but anyways, it's where YouTubers that create content for U4 come together, and it's kind of like a party. They essentially make videos about it. They play with the developers. There's also, for example, there's a really amusing video of them shooting muskets from like the 15th, 16th century or so. It's kind of, a get-together party that Paradox organizes. And in one of those cases, we even received a report from another event and attendee that your behavior towards them made them feel personally unsafe. We do not confront you directly about these reports because the individuals requested us to preserve their anonymity. We reviewed the evidence they pointed and we believed them. Yeah. Let that simmer for a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that this is Arumba getting cancelled or whatever, but... Sorry, something just fell off my desk. But you can see how this is much bigger than a tariffs video. I'm sure this is a long discussion to be had to be had about the severe personal difficulties you have gone through and how much this affects your history with us. I can't begin to imagine the emotional toll you have experienced lately, and I won't pretend I can tell you how to handle it. I do want to tell you I am impressed at your recent dedication to stop drinking, and I'm sure that you can I'm sure that can only be a positive step in the process. At the same time, we have an obligation to maintain attendee comfort and safety at our event, so on and so forth. Skipping over a little bit. Where things go from here is an open question mark. Again, I cannot know your feelings on us and our game, especially in light of this new communication. I can't urge you to keep playing games and making content that no longer bring you any happiness, nor tell you what you should work on as necessary to make a living and as a content creator. Unfortunately, this conclusion you'll have to reach on your own, etc., etc. I welcome any questions you have in response to this email. If nothing else, I can assure you that we won't leave things unanswered again for so long. This has nothing, practically nothing, to do with the tariffs video, right? Now, someone did link a tweet that says, maybe Paradox doesn't want to deal with a petty, whiny person, so on and so forth, but it's from a developer's wife. I don't care. Sorry, I don't care. As long as it's not coming from the company itself, from anyone in an official position to make statements that are not personal and that are company policy and a statement from the company itself, I really do not care what somebody's wife has to say. Focusing on that would be petty and irresponsible. And I really don't care what someone's personal opinion on the matter is, in the extent that it should matter in the grand... it should matter in terms of solving this issue and addressing this issue as a whole. Obviously, the opinions and the takes of people personally about, that are fans of Arumba or are fans of Paradox games in general, do matter to some extent, and they should be something taken into consideration. But personal tweets, I don't think, are going to change much in the grand scheme of things, or should be regarded as overly important. Now, with all of that being said, I think it's fair to say that this has nothing to do with a simple Taris video. It's sad, honestly, more than anything else, it's sad. I'd be the last person to defend a company over an individual content or a colleague content creator, but in this case, it's kind of what I end up doing. Again, all I'm trying to provide here, I'm not trying to attack anyone, because this is not something that concerns me personally, nor my channel, nor my content. I mean, it kind of does, considering, you know, it's Paradox, I make content for Paradox video games, but this is not something that in any way has been, you know, directly my issue. I've never been to those Paradox LAN parties, never been invited to them, understandably so. I'm just a menace to society, I'm kidding. Understandably so, and, you know, there's probably a lot more people that are a lot more personally affected by this that could speak out if they wanted to, but like I said, I explain my reasons for chiming in on the drama, I suppose. With all of that being said, I would also like to say that this is not a personal attack, nor do I have any intention of personally attacking anyone, Paradox, Arumba, or any other content creator. I'm simply trying to give context and to give a bigger picture to people that are coming off that tweet or off a Paradox comment and going, what the hell's going on here? It's sad. It's sad that something like this would happen, but in my personal opinion, and this has nothing to do with anyone directly, again, not a critique even, let alone an attack or anything along those lines, I think drunk streams are a horrible thing to do, because people will say things they don't mean, they will phrase them in ways that they don't want to phrase them when sober. It's an irresponsible thing to do. Having a drink while streaming is one thing, purposefully getting yourself drunk for the amusement of your viewers is not something I support. I think it's a bad decision, because it can lead to stuff like this. And I'm talking about drunk streams in general, in global, for any type of content, not this particular instance. I think the larger issue at hand here, from what I understand, is the response of some of the attendees of the LAN party who, quote-unquote, have been made to feel unsafe in his presence. I think that's a lot more problematic than anything else here, and I can't speak about that because, again, I haven't talked to those people, I have no information regarding the subject. Paradox clearly does. Maybe they've shared this with Arumba privately, doesn't look like it, but I don't know. I don't want to talk about stuff that I have no information on, but the stuff that I do have information on is, yeah, it's not looking good. Generally, for the community, and for Paradox, and for everyone associated with their games, this kind of drama I just dislike. And the fact that Arumba has chosen to share this in the way that he has, claiming that it is because of a critique of a game mechanic rather than this email, is, yeah, troublesome. Especially if we take into consideration that this is an email he shared publicly on his stream, and yet swept it under the rug when it came to the discussion of him being ghosted, quote-unquote, or blacklisted. So, ultimately, this has been as objective as I can be on the subject. I've tried to give you more of a context with the information that I have available to me, and with the information that I can procure given my relationship with Paradox, which is that I've worked with them a handful of times, like a couple of times. That's about it. Anyways, though, it seems like a business decision for me. This is like a purely personal take. I don't want you to take this as fact. I don't want to I want you to take this as anything serious. This is just a purely subjective opinion that I have from reading into the situation and from the information that I've shared with you. My personal subjective opinion is that this is a business decision from Arumba, and that this is an ego decision from Arumba, ego-driven decision where he wants to play the victim, and he wants a simple narrative of they banned me because I critiqued them, which is clearly not the case. From the information that I have and from personal experience. I can't say anything with 100% certainty because I don't think anyone can until you get into the heads of the Paradox employees and Arumba himself. Everything is, to some degree, minor or great speculation based on evidence. But, I mean, at the end of the day, that's how court cases work, so I don't think I've said anything new there as well. Anywho, though, I think this is a sad event. I think this is not something that we should focus on. I think this is not something that should happen, especially sharing emails like this that are supposed to be private. I think if you do have a disagreement with a company, if you do have problems with it, or they have problems with you, it should be inside baseball stuff, right? It should be behind the scenes, and if you feel a responsibility to say why you are not making content for a particular developer, or why you're not making a certain type of game, then I think you should censor it to some degree and say, right, I had a disagreement with so-and-so, as a result, I will not be making video games. I will not be making videos. I will not be making content for their video games. It's not the most transparent thing, but, you know, and sure enough, you can make the argument that your viewers deserve to know the whole truth. Okay, but if so, don't push a narrative that says, I've been banned because I've criticized something, because that's not the whole story. There's a fine line to tread between publishing the whole story and pushing a narrative that's subjective and incomplete. And there is also a fine line to tread between being transparent with your audience and simply sorry for a second, disrespecting the people that you work with and attacking them without proper justification. That's about it. That's my take on it. Again, subjective. Leave the final bit out if from like this. It's not like anything official that I want to say. It's just like my personal feelings towards the topic, and that's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. So, yeah. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Juggernaut. Tell me what you think on the subject, because it's sad to see it go down this way. As 50 Cent said, it's sad it had to end this way. But yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I said, I just hope that we steer clear of drama like this in the future. And initially, I was really mad at Paradox because I didn't see the whole issue, and I think a lot of people will have the same feelings, which is kind of partially why I wanted to make this. Anyways, that's about it. Thank you very much for watching. I guess I'll see you next time. But until then, don't take video games too seriously. Remember to enjoy yourselves, have fun, because ultimately that's what you're here for. And video games and YouTube in general is among a few other things, just for the most part, just one form of escapism and entertainment, which, you know, you can learn stuff from sometimes, but it's primarily it's entertainment. So, as always, which is kind of the reason why I say this always, have fun and take care. Bye bye.